All right. I don't know if anyone's going to take me seriously with this Monopoly piece on top of my head, but let's go for it. I am going through a bit of a transition. We already know this. Baby, I have been spilling my guts on this platform for the past few months now. Also, I had to delete Twitter because as a Leo, I tend to use my social media as my personal diary. Can't do that anymore. So I've been having more time to just sit with my feelings, sit with the epiphanies that I have been having. I think I need to take this home. Put something on that baby's head. Also on this healing journey of mine, I've also realized nothing really matters. Like nothing matters except the things that you make matter. And the fact that I was so bold to be so secure in my insecurities. It's weird behavior. So let's get into it. This is everything that I got wrong about relationships as an avoidant. Stay back. Drinking rosé at 10:53 a.m. on a Sunday is wild to me. I don't know. That's just insane. But if this was brunch, it would be sisterhood, right? Okay. You see how we need to rewrite the narrative sometimes? When you're avoidant, I think that you tend to conflate honesty with transparency. Meaning, if I tell you my honest opinion about everything, if I am upfront with you about my unpleasant feelings, if I am honest with you and I tell you the truth through and through, then you cannot come for me and tell me that I'm not honest with you or that we don't have an honest relationship. And this is how I think avoidant folks tend to get the rep of being insensitive, because there's no motivation to be honest when it matters. There's honesty when it's not necessary. If you've ever been in one of those like icky situations where you want to break up with somebody over something that's not that deep, which is okay, by the way, you can break up with somebody. The moment you don't want to be with somebody, you should break up with them. I don't care what the reason is. The moment you don't want to be with somebody no more, you should break up with them and stop wasting that person's time. Okay. But, it's kind of like if you are breaking up with somebody because you're no longer attracted to them, you don't have to tell them, hey girl, it's giving butt in the face, so I gotta go. Like, you don't have to. Transparency, I think, is more about sharing when you're having complicated feelings that can impact another person. It's less about what you're honest about and more about when you decide to be honest. I think that honesty can come from an ego space, whereas transparency does not. Honesty will look like, why were you talking to that girl over there? What the fuck were y'all talking about? I think it's disrespectful that you talked to her. I don't like that you did that in public. I don't like how that makes me look. Like, it makes me look dumb. It makes me look like we're not secure. Like, what's that? I think the transparency version could be, I had an uneasy feeling as you were talking to that girl over there. And maybe it's because I think that she's attractive and I'm feeling a bit insecure right now, but like that created a feeling in me right now. And I think that what transparency offers is a conversation, because you can be honest without necessarily revealing your true feelings. Whereas you can't be transparent and not reveal your true feelings. Like, you can describe in detail what's happening in front of you, but what's happening inside of you. Ooh. And this is why I think avoidant people can just be fucking jerks. Like, we can just be jerks because we are insensitive in defense of our truths. Number 2, being in a relationship does not mean that you have lost your independence. Now, if you're with a narcissist or someone who's like deeply troubled or damaged, then probably you need to leave that bitch in the lost and found. Leave them in the lost and found. Because girl, why? None of us asked to be here, yet we're here. And so why are we signing up for things that we don't want? There is this fake sense of like losing your sense of self, or losing like my individuality. I can't be my own person, or like I can't have my own flow. I have to abandon my own desires. I can't like move throughout the world that I want in the way that I want to because I'm in a relationship now, and it's that clank clank that's holding me back. And there's a few things that I want to say because I also used to feel this way. There is a way to be independent and in a relationship at the same time. And it requires boundaries, for one, and an understanding of boundaries. Because I think that I think that having boundaries is one thing. I think understanding the purpose of them is something else. Because you can tell people all day, like, I don't like this, I don't like this, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. But the point of a boundary is to still let people in. It's still letting someone in on what it means to understand you, what it means to love you, what it means to support you. You're not just putting up a bunch of walls around you so that no one can touch you. I mean, if you want to do that, I don't think that's what a boundary is, but I don't think that that is the purpose of a boundary. I used to make sure that I always had an out. Whether that mean I was always like financially a bit more stable than my partner, or I was always like, I kept a certain amount of distance between me and my partner. This also goes for friendships, by the way. Or just like there was always a space between me and my partner that I filled with something that allowed me to feel like I could go at any time. When me and Jaden first started dating, this is a horrible, I understand my intentions, and so I have compassion for myself there. But at the same time, like, words mean things and words can hurt people. So I used to say that I don't need you. I don't need you. I want you to know that I don't need you. And I think in my brain that meant like, as long as everyone knows that I'm making a choice to be here, then that means that when/if I make the choice to not be here, I told them. I let them know ahead of time. This independence that I'm fighting so hard to have doesn't even support me. Like, it doesn't even help me. I would actually benefit from having someone to rely on. I would actually benefit by sharing this load of life with another person. This is me. This is just me, okay? By the way, this is not advice. Baby, this is not advice. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? Like, actually, I would benefit from having a true partnership. Actually, I think I would like being able to not be independent for a day or two and be fully dependent on someone else and let someone else make the decisions. Let someone else take care of me. Let someone else think about if I've eaten that day. Wouldn't that be great, Jade? Instead of just like trying to keep this sacred independence, that's really a survival instincts. But like, keep this sacred independence and suck the teat of hyper independence. Like, what are we actually fighting for? Like, what is the actual, like, when does the good part start? In my fight for independence and honesty and, you know, freedom, like, what am I like, where's the good part? Like, what is the fruitful, successful, easy feeling that comes as a result of fighting for these things? And the reality is that it doesn't exist. At least it didn't exist for me. Like, the independence that I feel is because I don't trust people. And I feel that if I don't trust people and I rely fully on myself, then I can actually have something to depend on. And the something is me. If I'm always able to tell the truth, then I don't ever have to feel like I'm holding back feelings. I don't ever have to feel like I'm in a situation that I don't want to be in, or that I've been cornered or something like that, because I let people know that it was always my intention to be one foot out the door, so that people will never actually rely on me. People will never actually put anything real into the relationship that I have with them. Therefore, I don't have to feel bad about it when I leave. or like none of this, like the end of the road doesn't come to anything positive. It only perpetuates these feelings of like neglect and neglect. And if you really need to be that fucking independent, if you really need your freedom, I'm sorry, I don't mean to have this attitude, but like I'm thinking of somebody in my head as I'm saying this. But like if you need to have this freedom, if you need to have this attitude or this way of life where you're not tethered to anyone, you're not tethered to anything, you're a free bird, you know, whatever, you get what you need out of people and then you move on to the next person, next miss one, next 15 one coming type vibes. Why are you in a relationship? What are you doing? That's like going to Red Lobster and ordering a cheeseburger. For what? Why are you signing up for this? Why are you wasting people's time? The thing about us avoidants is that as much as we love to preach like individuality, uniqueness, freedom, like independence, like all of these things, we be love bombing the shit out of people. We will make you feel like you are, baby, that you are the next best thing to an angel. We will clear the fucking weekend to just hang out with you. We will create these like romantic events and spaces for us to like do that type of thing together. Because the thing is that we still need those things. We just don't want to commit to those things. We still need the feelings of safety and security and love and affection and sensuality and like all of these things. We just don't want the responsibility that comes with maintaining a relationship that is attached to it. And so the thing about a relationship is that even the word itself, it is your life in relation to another person. It is your feelings in relation to another's and vice versa. Like a relationship is a series of cause and effect. It's just a cycle of cause and fucking effect, girl. And so to think that you're going to live this like isolated, independent life fully outside of this relationship that you chose to be in, how do you think that this works? I think that people think, it, more specifically avoidance and just whatever. If you don't consider yourself avoidant, but you find that like, oh, Jade, low-key dragging me a little bit. I'm not saying that this is what you are. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I just spend a lot of time by myself and I read a lot and I'm committed to my own joy. I'm committed to understanding myself because I refuse to be Wreck-It Ralph in another bitch's life. Like, no. And so, or my own shit. I think people think that you show up and you do all of these things. Like when I say the responsibility of a relationship, like you show up and you do all of these things. I show up for your stuff. I support you. I help you pay the bills. I make sure that you have food. Like I think people look at all of these things that happen or that you may do for your person in a relationship as the means to the reward of love. It's like, I'm going to do all of these things and then in return, I'm going to have a loving relationship. When I think that it's actually, or at least me and Jaden, it's the opposite where like, because of the love and the partnership that we have, it is my responsibility to uphold that love, joy, that strong sense of partnership, commitment, by showing up in these ways. Like it's not something, it's not tit for tat. It's not, I think like a very rudimentary understanding of relationships is that it's very like tit for tat. It's very like, I do this, you do that. You do that, I do this. When I found, even in my friendships too, like the most free flowing, like where there's flow and there's a genuine energy to show up, it doesn't feel concerted. It doesn't feel like it's this like thing, is when the motivation is the joy and the love that you feel in your relationship. It's like, I'm going to show up for you, not because I'm supposed to, and that's my obligation as your friend, or that's my obligation as your partner. I'm going to show up for you because I want you to feel supported. I'm going to show up for you because I know that when I show up for you in a certain way, that it strengthens our connection in some type of way. Like, it makes you feel seen, and it makes me feel good to know that I can fulfill this for you. And I find that now that I like have this understanding, whenever I am meeting folks, especially now, and when I say especially now, I mean with this awareness, when I meet folks, there's so much flow, because I don't even entertain people who don't have this about them. Like, I'm not going to entertain people who have not cultivated a culture on their own around conflict resolution, around self-reflection. If you have not created a routine or a culture around accountability, or identifying what your real truth is, identifying what it is, identifying your role in your happiness and your misery, like, it's hard for me to connect with you, because I've already done that. I'm doing that now. And people who are not there yet, y'all tend to make, oh my God, y'all are a plague. Y'all are so fucking annoying. I have to say, I made a TikTok about this recently. I don't know. I just feel like some of y'all are terrible people, and y'all lack conflict resolution. And so no one actually gets to tell you that you're a terrible person, because the moment anyone tries to be honest with you and tell you that you're a terrible person, y'all be thinking that, like, oh, we're not compatible. I'm not nominating myself to be the guinea pig on your journey of self-reflection. That's your job. In the same way that your mental health is your job, if you have a child, that child is your job. Your joy is your job. Your misery is your job. All the things that happen in your life that make you feel good, bad, confused, satisfied, otherwise, your job. It's no one else's but yours. And I find that people who are not willing to do that work will make it your job. And baby, I don't need any more jobs. It's not bad to need someone. It's just not. You're one person. You are a speck on this earth. You are just a ball. You are just a nucleus of nerve endings and consciousness. And you are as big as my pinky nail in relation to how the scale of the earth. So to think that you can do everything and you can do anything without any support from anyone else, that just sounds like a really hard job. That sounds like a really big mountain. And if you want to choose to do that on your own, you have, baby, you can. You got it. But it's also not bad to need somebody. Not having access to your emotions, or being someone who's not an emotional person, is not a superpower. It's not cunt. It's not cute. You're not smarter than anyone. You're not better than anyone. And in fact, you're not even informed on yourself. You're not even informed on yourself. And you've been yourself your whole life. So how is that sickening? That's like being in the 3rd grade and getting held back until you're 20. What? Oh, we getting into it now. I'm getting loose. I need to chill before I start naming names. And I hate when an emotionless bitch tries to give us advice on how to be emotionless as if it's even benefiting them. Like, baby, you don't even like yourself. You don't even like yourself. Why would I take advice from you? Why would I take advice from somebody who doesn't even know what they mean? You don't even know how to talk to yourself, let alone someone else. What advice do you need to give to yourself? Maybe you should figure that out first before you try to like do something over here. Worry about that. Baby steps, babe. Baby steps. And then maybe you can sit at the adults table, okay? Because over here, emotions, free flowing. Over here, we cry. Over here, we get a little rage filled sometimes, right? What does that mean? You know what I mean? Everyone has emotions. Everyone has a wide range of emotions. There are just some people who have language for it, and then some people who don't. Some people who are more informed on those, and then some who are not. But like, what does it mean when you say you're an emotional person? That you are not afraid of showcasing your emotions in front of people? Okay, I guess so. But to me, because everyone has the capacity for very intense, deep emotions, I guess not everyone does have the capacity for that. But most people can experience emotion. And because of that, you have tools to understand them. And the thing about people who are void of emotion, or who say that they're void of emotion, y'all are like the car on fire that's on the side of the street that everyone is slowing down on the highway to watch. Y'all, but to y'all, the car on fire, it's like, oh my God, what's everyone looking at? What's everyone looking at? Stop. That is literally y'all. It's like everyone can see the damages. Everyone can see the ruin in you, but you. And it's such a disservice to go on about being prideful, about not having access to your emotions. That is, once again, your job. And this is something that you cannot teach people. I've learned in the last few years of just like, I've learned that I'm not a people person. Like, I'm not a people person, but I'm a people person. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not like a people person that like, in that like, I'm going to invite like 50 bitches over my house and we're going to eat macaroons and like, you know, share napkins. I'm a people person in that if you're around me, I want to understand you. If you're around me, I want to get it. If you're around me, what is your thing? Like, what is your joy? Like, who are you? Like, I'm a people person in that way. And so when it comes to people who try their absolute best to be as far from their emotions as possible, they're never gonna win, and everyone loses. You have to leave them where they are. You end up going into this catch-22 cycle because on one hand, it's like they're showing the emotion, whether you want to acknowledge the emotion or not. We see it. We can see that like you need support. We can see that, okay, maybe you don't have language for this, or like you need some compassion right now, or maybe some patience, some grace, whatever the case is. Like, we can understand it, but because of your inability to accept the fact that you are an emotional being, anything that comes from this side is going to be rejected. And it makes people who are very emotionally driven, or people who are a bit more tapped in emotionally, it makes us feel rejected. It makes us feel like we're small because my emotions and yours can't exist in the same room anymore. Because yours are so big and we could have a conversation, we could do something about it so that they feel less destructive. Like, we can have a conversation about that. And even like people who decide that I'm going to control my emotions, that's also not the goal. The goal of emotion, your emotions are like plants. It's like the trees in the forest. It's going to do what it wants to do regardless of what you want to do with them. Right? Like, you're going to feel it, and you can either use that time to understand it, to hone it, to understand how to do something productive with it, or at least not destructive, or you can try to suppress it. Because I feel like a lot of people who say like, I just know how to control my emotions or whatever, like, I feel like y'all just suppress your emotions. I feel like there's a resistance to feeling, or like there's a resistance to the exploration of what is actually happening inside of you, because you're so stuck on wanting to control your emotions, which really, I think, is controlling perception. I think it's controlling perception of how Like you being mad, what that looks like. You being sad, what that looks like. Rather than like coming to a place of acceptance and understanding. Because the longer, like, because the more you try to like just control your emotions, like, it's kind of like cops. And very ACAB. Very ACAB. If your only job is to control the emotion, you're not trying to understand the crime. You're not trying to understand the people behind the crime. You're not trying to understand if there even is a crime. Your whole job is to just control it and control it only. It's gonna be more aggressive or abrasive than it needs to be because you're not understanding the nature of what you're feeling. Most of the time, what we're feeling makes a lot of fucking sense. Unless you have a literal chemical imbalance, you have a diagnosis that says that your brain and the way that your brain works is a little bit different. It's a little bit more unique. Unless that is what's happening, most of the time, what you're feeling makes sense for what you're dealing with. But because you're so stuck on trying to like control your emotions, you are assigning a more abrasive or cold, hard approach to something that just doesn't need that. It just doesn't need that. The lesson. I'm spitting right now. The lesson is let it flow, bitch. You are not a superpower, and that is fine. You are a regular old human, just like the rest of us. And that is okay. You do not have to be above anyone. You do not have to be bigger than anyone to live a good life. You can be right with us all, and have everything that you want. With my current relationship, I know now what it means to have independence. So coming from an avoidant perspective, as an avoidant person who's really, really working on it, and I'm really doing my best to do the work, I have now come to understand that I can have everything that I want, and that I can have freedom and independence and, you know, things that feel like they're just for me in a relationship. I feel that there's a lot that I can have in a relationship. And mostly that comes with leaning in to the relationship. Avoidant people, we have a tendency to think that all of the gifts and success lie outside of people. They lie fully within ourselves. And while one side of the coin, I think that that's true, on the other side, there's a lot that we're getting from there can be a lot that we're getting from our communities, from our relationship, that we are just not acknowledging, that are also contributing to our success. They're also contributing to our well-being. But because it's outside of our value system, where we only value our input, our work, our time, our energy, like when you're avoidant, you're very self-centered. So it's like, it's hard for you to see the value in what you get from other people or from other environments. And it's there, and it's always been there. And you can fight against the idea that it was there the whole time all you want, or lean in and understand that when you lean in, you let people understand you more, which means that the things that you want are not far-fetched. They're not crazy. They're not, I mean, some shit that y'all want is crazy, and y'all need to go see a therapist. Regardless, everyone needs to see a therapist. Everyone needs to see a therapist. But like, you can have a lot of what you want. It just takes working with another human being. But I think the working with another human being is where people stop. That's where the conversation stops. That's where the work stops. But you can get there. You just have to want to get there with someone. That's all.